Ladies and gentlemen, picture this. You walk into a room and every single eye turns toward you, not just out of mere curiosity, but with an instinctive dread, mingled with a sense of awe. Men, who once acted so proud and confident, suddenly shrink back, their voices dropping to mere whispers. Women, sharp and ambitious as they are, lean in closer, drawn in by a force they simply can't put their finger on. Crowds part before you, not because you demand that they do, but because your very presence hints at consequences that are simply too dire to even consider testing. Now, what if I were to tell you that this isn't some kind of Hollywood fantasy conjured up on the silver screen, but instead, it's the raw, unfiltered essence of true power, straight from the shadows of Renaissance Italy, reborn for the cutthroat arenas of modern America. I'm talking about crafting an aura so ruthless, so magnetically inevitable, that it bends the world right to your will, without you even having to lift a single finger. This is Machiavelli's dark psychology, carefully dissected and then weaponized by an American who's been battle-hardened, who's walked the hallowed halls of Wall Street boardrooms, expertly navigated the treacherous waters of Washington politics, and stared down rivals in the unforgiving grind of everyday empire building. I've read The Prince, not as some dusty old relic of the past, but as a very real blueprint for survival, in a nation where the strong devour the weak, and the cunning always outlast them all. Now, hold on just a second. Before we dive headfirst into this abyss of personal transformation, let me paint a picture for you that initially hooked me decades ago. Imagine a young hustler in the concrete jungles of New York City, fresh off the boat from some forgotten town somewhere, armed only with Machiavelli's words resonating in his head. It is better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both. That kid, he didn't scream and shout for attention. He built it, brick by silent brick, until he became the man that absolutely no one dared to cross. And now, I'm handing you that exact same arsenal. But here's the spark to ignite your curiosity even further. What if, right now, in your very city, whether it's the bustling streets of Chicago, the sun-soaked vibes of LA, or the heartland grit of Texas, you could start reshaping your reality? Drop a comment down below with your location and the phrase, "Power flows to me from your city," just to see how this Machiavellian fire spreads like wildfire right across the map. Let's make this a nationwide conquest, shall we? Now, buckle up and hold on tight, because we're about to embark on a 10-stage odyssey of self-forging. Each stage is a sharpened blade in your own psychological armory. By the time you reach the end, you won't just project power. You'll embody it. Untouchable, unbreakable. Stay right with me. The path that lies ahead is as thrilling as it is downright perilous. Power's true foundation isn't found in thunderous roars or flashy displays. It's the quiet certainty that takes root deep down in your soul, as unyielding and immovable as the Rocky Mountains. Machiavelli, that sly Florentine fox, knew this all too well. Men are drawn to strength, even if it's cloaked in ice-cold resolve. As an American who's personally seen empires rise and fall, everything from Silicon Valley startups to Capitol Hill scandals, I can tell you this: hesitation is death. Doubt, it's the crack in your armor that invites the wolves right in. To build an aura that warps reality around you, you've got to start with unshakable conviction. Convince yourself, first and foremost, that your will is destiny's own script, carved right in granite. immovable by storms or schemers. Now, this isn't blind arrogance, folks. It's engineered inevitability. Every glance you cast, every single syllable you utter, every deliberate pause, it all must weigh like lead, inevitably pulling others right into your orbit. Think of it like this. In the high-stakes poker games of Las Vegas, the real pros don't bluff with wild gestures. They sit there stone-faced, letting pure silence do all of the heavy lifting. You must do the very same. Withhold all your reactions. Starve the emotional vampires who try to feed on your impulses. Weaklings yap endlessly just to validate their very existence. The powerful hoard their words like rare bourbon, dispensing them with devastating precision. Train your mind to view every encounter as a chess match played out on the board of human frailty. Watch how they over-explain, how they rush to fill the void of your silence. That's their weakness spilling out like cheap wine. You stand firm, observe everything, calculate, reveal absolutely nothing, and watch them project all of their deepest fears onto you. That projection? It's the fertile soil where control takes firm root. Fear blooms from the unknown, and you've just become the ultimate enigma. If you're nodding along with me, feeling that spark ignite within you, just pause right here. Breathe it all in. And if this foundation really resonates with you, comment below. My silence commands respect. Let's see just how many minds are already beginning to sharpen. Now layer on the mask of controlled power, the veil that separates the pretender from the true prince. Machiavelli absolutely nailed it. Folks judge by the surface, not the depths. And in America, where image is king from Hollywood red carpets to the corporate climb, that's your golden ticket right there. Raw emotions, unbridled outbursts of joy or fury, those are all chinks in the armor. Invitations for others to slip right in and seize the reins. Your face becomes a bastion, as unreadable as a diplomat's poker face during sensitive trade talks. Your voice? A scalpel, slicing right through all pretense. Your eyes? Portals of unyielding dominance, locking right onto souls until they are the first to flinch. When they just can't decipher you, they can't possibly anticipate your moves, and without anticipation, control just evaporates right from their grasp. This is power leashed, mastered so completely that your con towers high over their frenzy, like the Statue of Liberty standing tall over choppy waters. Cultivate that quiet authority, a stillness that rattles the chaotic souls all around you. Move with the deliberate slowness of a southern gentleman closing a very important deal, as if time itself bows right down to your rhythm. Every single gesture screams clear intention. Every pause declares your sovereignty over the madness. Remember, true power doesn't parade itself around. It simply lurks, undeniable. Stride right into a boardroom or a bar, and don't go hunting for the spotlight. Just let it cascade right upon you, like sunlight falling on the Grand Canyon. Forge this mask through strict daily discipline, and watch obedience flow not from commands, but from the inescapable pull of your gravity. It's just like those old Western showdowns. The gunslinger who doesn't draw first ends up winning without even firing a shot. Master it, and your aura becomes a true force of nature. If this hits home with you, if you're envisioning that mask settling right over your features, comment, "My mask is my weapon." Feel the power building inside of you. Good. Just let it simmer for a bit. But a mask alone just won't suffice. You need the calculated sting of fear to edge your blade. power without fear, it's as brittle as autumn leaves underfoot. Machiavelli's blunt wisdom, "It is safer to be feared than loved," still rings true in our litigious, social media-fueled America, where niceties often mask the knives. Modern soft hearts shy right away from this, but if you crave an aura that bends wills like rebar in an earthquake, embrace it wholeheartedly. Fear isn't mindless savagery. It's perceptual mastery, honing an edge so keen that others steer clear instinctively. The feared man doesn't have to bellow threats. His shadow alone is what implies the peril. It sprouts whenever foes glimpse the abyss. Crossing you means complete forfeiture of status, chances, or even just the mirage of your favor. No actual fists are required here, just the savvy to revoke what they cherish most deeply. Keep your appraisals veiled, shrouded carefully in mystery. An enigmatic figure with an unseen grip terrifies far more than a blustering bully flashing every single card he has. Yet, equilibrium is key. Overdo the fear, and cabals will start to form in the dark. Underplay it, and you'll just be dismissed. The Machiavellian secret to success? Fuse fear with utter indispensability. Be the very pillar that they lean on, all while dreading its collapse. That paradox is what forges an ironclad allegiance. Loved men? They're easily swapped like yesterday's news. Feared ones? They're etched right in memory, just like Lincoln's profile on the penny. Wield fear surgically, in hushed moments, where it slices the deepest. Let your aura murmur, defy me, and you'll rue the dawn. They'll mock the timid, you, untouchable reverence. As someone who's navigated cutthroat negotiations ranging from Detroit auto plants to DC lobbies, I can assure you, this duality is what turns rivals right into reluctant devotees. If you're primed to weave this particular thread, comment, "My presence breeds both respect and fear." Digest that slowly. It's the pivot where all of your power truly awakens. To wield such fear effectively without crumbling yourself in the process, you must master emotional detachment, the stoic core that elevates you high above the everyday fray. Bending others to your will demands that you first bend your own volatile heart into something unassailable like solid steel. Attachments, desperate yearnings, overzealous stakes in the game. They're nothing but shackles, rendering you as predictable as a scripted reality show. Machiavelli's counsel, "Never entrust your fortunes to others," is a lifeline in our modern betrayal-riddled world. Everything from corporate backstabs to deeply personal heartbreaks. Detachment isn't some soulless void. It's invulnerability. Immune to sycophantic praise, stinging rebuffs, treacherous turns, or hollow accolades. You become the fixed star in humanity's emotional tempest. Unmanipulable, eternal. Consider the average Joe. He shatters right at rejection, erupts at perceived slights, grovels pathetically for affirmation, and poof, his power simply dissolves like fog at dawn. But you'll endure the barb in utter silence, weather betrayal with glacial poise. Just let those who are fleeing chase their own ghosts. Deny them the expected eruption, and uncertainty engulfs them completely, amplifying your aura like an echo resonating in the Grand Canyon. Detachment sharpens your calculus too. Passions will always cloud judgment, but clarity is what cuts straight through. See all the machinations plain. Maneuver without any real qualms. The love-struck fool is enslaved by affection. The vengeful hothead devoured entirely by ire. You harness both of them as an arsenal, never actual cages. Stoicism isn't frailty at all. It's the forge that tempers your very edge. From my personal vantage point, having stared down both economic crashes and political purges, I've learned. Watch the inferno rage on. Just remain the unflinching sentinel. Adapting, plotting, enduring. That's Machiavellian fortitude. American style. With detachment firmly in place, choice reigns supreme. Strike whenever the time is ripe. Withdraw when it's wise to do so. Feign largesse very strategically. Nothing actually owns you. Thus, no one can truly command you. It's the ultimate liberation in a land that's absolutely full of illusions. Pause for a brief moment and reflect. In your own life, what emotions are currently chaining you down? Sever them clean and rise up. If you're set to transcend all mortal frailties, comment, "I am untouchable." Let that truth settle like a very fine whiskey. Smooth, potent, transformative. Finally, for this first half of our journey together, crown it all with a mastery of both silence and words, the dual blades that carve whole empires right out from the ether. Words are lethal arms. Silence, the scabbard, is what lends them fatal keenness. Fools squander both of these things, blathering inanities that scream insecurity to the whole world. But the adept? He seizes control of the mental terrain well before he ever utters a single word. Machiavelli urged princes to carefully cloak their intents, and silence is that impenetrable guard in our modern era of endless chatter. From angry Twitter tirades to mundane boardroom babble. By simply muting yourself, you thwart all of their probes, their forecasts, and their attempts at sabotage. Silence unnerves people, coaxing them into confessions of frailty, motives, and any chinks in their armor. While you, the impassive oracle, harvest all of that crucial intel. In that very hush, adversaries will bare their souls completely. You amass the map to conquest. Then, when speech finally breaks forth, each carefully chosen utterance hammers right home, inscribed eternally. Words aren't actually for simple elucidation. They're for molding the minds of other people. Precision is absolutely paramount. Succinct, piercing, ordained. Don't bother clarifying. Command visions. Speak of nothing but imperatives, fates, and things that are unyielding. Shun all justifications. They reek of nothing but frailty, birthing scorn in their wake. Declare boldly, direct firmly, provoke slyly, in order to warp their paradigms to your own. Follow all of that with weighted silence, searing directly into their psyches. This symphony of both quiet and voice, a thrust and parry. Isolated, they're both impotent, but united, they're absolutely devastating. To etch an aura that haunts the room long after you've actually departed, balance them carefully. Utter sparingly, but lethally. Heed abundantly. Disclose absolutely nothing. Mystery, command, and gravitas all ensue, the very essence of the inescapable titan. A loose lip is what topples thrones. A restrained one is what erects whole realms. Silence garners pure awe. Words secure deep fealty. Tandem, they instill dread in the hearts of all. Legends arise not from all the clamor, but from pure sonic sovereignty. From my many years dissecting power plays in the dark underbellies of America, I've seen this to be true. The silent strategist is always going to outmaneuver the loudest orator, every single time. If you're geared up to dominate things in this manner, comment, "My silence speaks louder than kings." We've covered the bedrock now. Just let it all marinate as we gear up for the ascent in part 2. But always remember, power isn't observed. It has to be seized. We've laid out the foundation, forged the mask, wielded fear, mastered detachment, and harnessed the power of silence. Each and every one of these is a pillar of the ruthless aura that bends wills like mere reeds in a raging storm. Now let's climb even higher, forging the final stages of your full transformation into a force that's so commanding and so untouchable that the world itself reshapes right around your very presence. This is the American crucible, where Machiavelli's cold calculus meets the relentless ambition of a nation that was built on both grit and guile. From the towering skyscrapers of Manhattan to the sprawling ranches of Montana, power truly respects no geography. It bows only to those who are willing to seize it. Let's continue to sculpt your aura with the precision of a master craftsman. Each stroke deliberate, each cut truly eternal. The 6th stage is the weaponization of your presence, turning your very existence into a force that actually shifts the air itself. Presence isn't just about showing up. It's about commanding the room before you ever speak a single word, just like a seasoned general surveying a battlefield or a CEO stepping right into a hostile takeover. In my years of expertly navigating the shark-infested waters of American commerce and politics, I've definitely seen it all. The man who fumbles right into a room, desperately craving everyone's approval, just fades right into the wallpaper, while the one who moves with sheer purpose always owns the space. You've got to start with your posture. Stand tall, like you've claimed the very earth right beneath your boots. Shoulders squared, just like a Wyoming rancher facing a blizzard. No fidgeting, no restless tics. Those are all tells of the weak, the nervous, the forgettable. Your movements must flow effortlessly, measured and unhurried, like the Mississippi River slowly carving its path. Pace is power. Move slower than the frenetic masses, and just watch them sink right to your rhythm, unconsciously bending to your tempo. Eye contact is your very next weapon, primal as a wolf's stare in the wilds of the Alaskan frontier. Don't dart around or chase after their gaze. Just hold steady, calm and unyielding, until they finally break. That fleeting moment when their gaze falters ever so slightly. You've just won a silent war. Beyond the body itself, your voice must resonate, deep down, low, deliberate, each word carefully etched like a chisel on marble. Pause for a long time. Just let the silence stretch out like a taut bowstring, crushing all of their nervous chatter right under its immense weight. Presence thrives on scarcity as well. Don't be the guy who's always there, blending right into the noise, like a Times Square billboard. Be rare, like a desert mirage, so that when you finally appear, the entire room tilts in your favor. People should definitely feel the void when you depart, as if the very air itself mourns your absence. This really isn't just theater. It's real conviction simply bleeding right outward. Believe that you are the very axis of the universe, and others will naturally orbit right around you. If you're actually ready to make rooms bend to your raw gravity, comment below. My presence is absolutely undeniable. Feel that weight settle right in. It's the very mantle of power finally taking firm hold. Now let's sharpen up the seventh stage, the science of psychological leverage, the sheer art of pulling all the invisible strings until others dance precisely to your tune. Machiavelli taught all of us that men are swayed by just two levers, fear of an imminent loss and hope of a future gain. And in the dog-eat-dog arena that is American life, everything from startup pitches to grueling courtroom battles, this is a truth that reigns absolutely supreme. To bend others' wills, you must truly know what drives your target. Their most secret hungers, their deepest buried insecurities, their quiet terrors that keep them up at night. This demands observation that's even sharper than a hawk's eye. Listen far more than you ever speak. Carefully decode all of their body language and track all of their verbal tics. Weak men completely miss the details. You collect all of them like precious ammunition. Once you know just what it is that they really crave, be it validation, security, or even just pure glory, you then hold the actual keys right to their fragile soul. Dangle approval sparingly if they desperately seek it. Hint at exclusion if they truly dread it. And position yourself as the gatekeeper to all of their most treasured ambitions. I've definitely seen it play out in both smoky back rooms and gleaming penthouses. The man who truly controls the levers controls the entire game from start to finish. Leverage really isn't about brute force. It's surgical, almost invisible. Just like a shrewd Wall Street trader, skillfully manipulating markets with nothing more than a whisper. Plant new ideas, steer their emotions. Just let them think that they chose your actual path freely, when you've already scripted out every single step of the way. But be sure to tread very lightly here. Overt manipulation can spark very real rebellion. Grant them just enough freedom to keep them tethered carefully, all while subtly guiding their own choices directly to your ultimate ends. The greatest American tycoons throughout history, everything from Rockefeller to Musk, have all mastered this. Not ruling with an iron fist, but weaving webs that are so incredibly subtle that nobody could possibly escape. Ask yourself these two questions. What do those around you fear most? What do they yearn for in their life? Become both the answer to all of their deepest dreams and also the very shadow of their worst nightmares. And you'll be absolutely indispensable to them. Indispensability is the ultimate checkmate. Betrayers topple leaders that they simply don't need, but never those who they can't possibly live without. If you're actually ready to pull all those unseen strings now, comment, "I control all of the unseen strings." Just let that all sink in. You're quickly becoming the puppet master. Stage 8 brings all of us to the discipline of ruthless boundaries, the invisible fortress that guards your vast empire. In a land where everyone is constantly hustling to grab a piece of you, your time, energy, and attention, boundaries are what serve as your all-important bulwark against constant erosion. Weak men will bend over backwards, forgiving way too fast, compromising all too often, and basically teaching the whole world to trample all over them. But a true Machiavellian, seasoned carefully by the relentless grind of America, knows far better. Boundaries really aren't about cruelty, they're about clarity. Declaring what you're truly worth as absolutely non-negotiable. Your precious time? a very rare commodity, not some free buffet. Your invaluable presence, a privilege, not a basic right. When others sense that they can easily cross you without any real cost, your aura frays apart like a very cheap suit. But when every single slight carries immense weight, every trespass comes with a steep price to pay, your own value then soars higher than a Nasdaq stock during a full-fledged bull run. Enforce all of your boundaries with cold, hard precision. Cut off the time wasters. Withdraw yourself from any kind of disrespect, and make the exploiters pay up very dearly. Hesitation always invites escalation. Act swiftly, decisively, and without any kind of apology. I've learned this the hard way in the crucibles of both corporate wars and deeply personal betrayals. A single unpunished slight always invites a dozen more right in its wake. Say a firm no, like a guillotine, sharp, final, and unburdened by any guilt. Scarcity is what breeds desire. Kings truly aren't omnipresent, and their very rarity fuels their great mystique. But boundaries aren't just about the external. They're very internal as well. Discipline all of your own inner weaknesses, your ingrained laziness, and all of your emotional leaks. A man who simply can't master himself is just a castle that has crumbling walls. Self-control always radiates immense authority, while self-indulgence simply invites scorn. When you actually live up to this particular standard, others are either going to align themselves with you or just vanish entirely. And either one of these outcomes always fortifies your own power. If you're finally ready to draw all of those lines directly in the sand, comment, "My lines are truly unbreakable." That's the unyielding steel in your spine fully hardening. The ninth stage is all about the shadow of strategic cruelty, a truth that most Americans actively dodge, but the truly powerful embrace with open arms. Machiavelli simply didn't mince any words. Well-timed cruelty can secure all of your authority far faster than misplaced mercy ever will. In a nation where fortunes are able to flip overnight and loyalty is just a fleeting currency, this here is going to be your significant edge. Cruelty isn't just wanton savagery. It's controlled fire, a very precise strike that always scars the memory. The weak always shy away from this, but from the gritty streets of Chicago all the way to the polished corridors of Washington, D.C., I've seen it all actually work. Strategic cruelty really means punishing only rarely, but memorably, ensuring that the valuable lesson echoes loudly. Crossing you in any way always costs far more than they can actually afford. No actual violence is ever needed here, just your own fertile imagination. Silence a rival's reputation with nothing more than a well-placed word. Withdraw all of your support at their crucial hour of need, and let very lucrative opportunities slip right through all of their fingers. It's really not personal, it's just tactical. Like a sniper's perfectly placed shot. Time it all perfectly. Too frequent, and you're just a tyrant who is always sparking rebellion. Too soft, and it simply becomes toothless, just like a powerful mountain lion in the Rocky Mountains. Don't ever strike every single prey animal. Just target the one that sends the entire herd scattering wildly. Apply all of this ruthlessness directly inward as well. Slay all of your own tired excuses, burn all of your precious comfort zones, and carefully carve out all mediocrity with a sharp blade. When others witness all of this impressive self-discipline, they're going to sense a form of resilience that they just can't ever match, thereby bending them right to your every will. Cruelty, when balanced with mercy, is what makes you truly unforgettable. Mercy earns you admiration, and cruelty etches a deep sense of pure fear. And together, they both forge utter invincibility. Unleash all of it with clear intent, and just let all of the scars warn those lurking in the shadows. If you're truly ready to wield this particular edged steel now, comment, "My power is edged in steel." Just feel the immense weight of that major responsibility. It's the crown that is growing far heavier. Finally, we fully reach the 10th and final stage, the ultimate crown of untouchability, the apex where all prior steps fully converge into an undeniable aura of sheer inevitability. Untouchability really isn't just a mere boast. It's a clear state that others can truly feel, just like standing tall before a monolith that was carefully carved by time itself. No actual scheme, slight, or betrayal is able to ever pierce you. You skillfully operate high above all of the petty games played by ordinary men, effortlessly bending all of their wills to your own. This majestic crown is forged by a lifetime of intense discipline, worn at all times in pure silence. Those who are untouchable never chase after any validation. They simply generate it on their own. They never beg for something like loyalty. It just flows freely, like rivers that always lead right to the sea. Machiavelli famously said that fortune always favors the bold. But in America's ruthless arena, sheer boldness without strategy is just a major death wish. Every single move is carefully calculated. Every moment of silence is a carefully laid snare. And every deliberate gesture is just a blatant signal of pure dominion. Consistency is what builds the powerful myth that you're absolutely unbreakable. A shield that is stronger than any suit of shining armor. Power can and will inevitably fade away. Countless empires, everything from ancient Rome to modern Wall Street, have definitely proven that time and time again. But while you're actually standing firm, your own aura is able to seem utterly eternal. People don't just simply obey you. They can't even fathom a world existing without your immense shadow looming large. Fuse total silence, clever masks, controlled fear, emotional detachment, dominant presence, psychological leverage, rigid boundaries, and strategic cruelty directly into a singular, undeniable force, and all resistance will soon become completely unthinkable. You're really not forcing them into submission. You're carefully making their defiance just feel completely futile. This particular crown is not bought or stolen. It's carefully built up through relentless cunning and an unyielding iron will. From my decades of truly wrestling with power's raw edges, I can tell you this with complete certainty. The tough path is always grueling, but the sheer summit is nothing short of divine. You know the right way now. Are you actually willing to walk it until the end? If you're actually ready to claim this coveted mantle, comment one final time, "I am completely untouchable." And if this amazing journey has ignited your deeply buried hunger, please don't stop right here. Share all of this with those who are truly bold enough to tread the exact same difficult path. The well-worn road to true power never waits for anyone.